politicians have graduated from the United States.
That really has happened because the president and Bobby and a number of members of the team have been actually working with the private industry to lower the cost of prescription drugs for American citizens. Now, it would be great if we get congressional Democrats to actually do something meaningful with us, because you'd think, Democrats, they like to say that they're for the working people against the big pharma companies. So you would think legislatively they want to work with us. Is yes, a lot of them have a sort of private sector mindset. None that care about their see or sort of don't care about all the people. A lot of people not do that. And that to achieve all the people are not by things. Generation is that people think in incredibly conventional ways, and if you bring them a non-conventional idea, their automatic assumption is no, we're not allowed to talk about that, much less fund something related to that. And I think it's maybe the most important thing of all the specific initiatives that you guys have worked on effectively. The most important thing is that your team is willing to ask questions that people in government haven't been asking in a long time. And if you think about how unhealthy the American population has gotten over the past 20 or 30 years, you're not going to fix that problem unless you have people at the table who are asking different questions than the ones that were asked 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's what thank you. One of the interesting things about working with this president is that, we're coming into these bureaucracies that have constructed these orthodoxies, and it's just a series of very narrow Overton windows that
Absolutely.
You're not allowed to bring the conversation out of that, or you get destroyed.
That's right.
And now we're working for a president who just takes a bulldozer to Overton windows and does that, like, shocks us every day, and then we go, okay, well.
That's exactly right. That is a good summary. That's exactly right. That is a good summary of Donald J. Trump, is that he takes a bulldozer to Overton windows every single day. But it had to happen. It just had to happen. And if you look at so many of the things that are happening on the public health side, I mean, one of the criticisms that Bobby will always get, and I always think it's such bullshit, excuse my language, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that. It's probably covering, I apologize to everybody who's watching live on Fox News. But hopefully they were able to bleep that out. But anyway, is sometimes there's this attack where people say, well, this or that conclusion is not supported by the science, or this or that conclusion is a conspiracy theory. And science, as practiced in its best form, is that if you disagree with it, then you ought to criticize it, and you ought to argue it against it, but you can't shut down the debate. And that really is, if you look at all of the big public health debates that we've had in this country over the last 20 or 30 years, it doesn't bother me that they disagreed with something that I believed or disagreed with something you believed or any of you. It's that they tried to silence the people who were saying things that were outside the Overton window. And as we found out the hard way over the last few years, it was very often the people who were outside the Overton window who were actually right, and all the experts were wrong.
Yeah. I had a conversation with Marty McCary the other day, and he reminded me that over the Royal Society, on the building, the portal for the Royal Society in London, which is the oldest scientific society in the world and the most prestigious.
Of course.
It says, question everything.
Yes.
And that is, that's what science is. It's recognizing that convention is often wrong, and that the people who make advances on science, almost 100% of the times, are people who are willing to challenge orthodoxies and advance heterodoxies and talk about new ways of thinking, and that, these very ossified bureaucracies that now make up the so-called medical establishment are fortified against that kind of change.
That's absolutely right. And I mean, to put a slightly different spin on it, a lot of the times the people who are discovering things interesting and new are a little weird, right? I mean, American society for a very long time had a willingness to accept unconventional, slightly odd people inside some of these industries, inside some of these bureaucracies. I mean, I've been reading a lot in the past couple of weeks about von Neumann, the Hungarian scientist who came to the United States and was very important in the Manhattan Project. And what I keep on finding myself thinking, I mean, this is a brilliant guy. This is, one of the, I think it was Edward Teller or Oppenheimer or another, the Manhattan Institute people said about von Neumann that von Neumann was talking to his 3-year-old, and then he realized that he used the same skill von Neumann did when talking to a 3-year-old as he did with everybody else, because he was so far above everybody else in terms of brilliance. But then you read about this guy, and I think to myself, half of the shit that this guy said would have gotten him canceled, or would have gotten his career ruined, or would have had his life ruined. There is no way that this country is going to advance unless we're comfortable with people who are willing to challenge orthodoxy. And that's what I think got so broken, not just about the scientific bureaucracy, but probably it was worse in the scientific area than in most other places, is we've got to be comfortable challenging some of these old orthodoxies. And part of that is welcoming people who are a little unusual, because unless you do that, like, you're not going to solve America's problems with McKinsey consultants who say everything the right way all the time. No offense for the McKinsey consultants, because but many of whom are very brilliant people, but like you need the consultant mindset. You also need the person who is just thinking about an idea because it's interesting and it's fascinating and it's not being focused on enough in the right way.
You and I have talked a lot about Appalachia, and both of us come from families that are intertwined personally and politically in Appalachia. You're kind of a golden child of Appalachia. You came out, you went to Ohio State, right?
That's right.
Yale Law School, a successful, uber successful business, a best-selling author, U.S. Senator, and now Vice President of the United States. But it's almost a kind of tragic reminder of the lost potential of almost everybody else in Appalachia, not only for poor health, it's got the worst health data of any region in the country, the highest cardiac disease, the highest obesity, the highest diabetes, the highest stroke rates, but also addiction, alcoholism, and suicide. It leads the nation for those things. And so I know it's something that you've spent a lot of time thinking about. How do we, because if we can solve problems in Appalachia, we can solve them for the whole country.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the public health stuff in particular is very bad. And if you look at where life expectancy has gotten the worst in the United States, Appalachia is sort of at the top of the list. And the way that I realized this, actually, so my dad died of cancer a few years ago. And it was one of these sort of super aggressive cancers, came on very unexpectedly, and then all of a sudden he was gone a few months later. But I was talking with my wife, with Usha, about this, and Usha, she was like, have you ever had like a really important male figure in your life survive to the age of 70? I'm looking, and it's like, okay, my grandfather died at 67 from a very preventable illness, but 67 from a very preventable, very treatable illness. I think all of my aunts or all of my uncles, and not a single one of them that I could think of made it to 69. Maybe one of them made it to 70 or 71. And it kind of hit me that if you grow up in Appalachia, you are used to losing the people that you love very, very early on. And you were to talk about like populism, and you were to talk about people being pissed off. Well, yeah, people are pissed off when they don't have good jobs. And people are pissed off when things disappear and move overseas. And people are pissed off when they feel like, other countries are being prioritized over the United States of America. And all of that is part of the populist resentment of the past 20 or 30 years in American politics. You know what really pisses people off? When they realize that their loved ones are dying much sooner than everybody else. And that is a big part of the story of what's going on in Appalachia and why I think so many people in Appalachia feel left behind. I mean, my story, obviously, it's been, like you said, I'm like the golden boy. Things have just worked out for me in this really incredible way. I feel so lucky and so grateful for it. But I also feel a certain sense of guilt because there are a lot of people who grew up in families like mine who haven't had an easy life and who haven't had all this economic opportunity and who haven't had, a person that they've fallen in love with and they've been able to sort of build a stable, nice family like me and Usha have been able to build. And that gives me a sense of purpose because I want those people to have the same opportunities that I've had. But it also gives me a great sense of anger because we never should have gotten to the point that we are today. And the reason that we have is because of failed leadership, and it's failed leadership over generations. And by the way, you talk about Appalachia, you were talking about people who, though they don't have much, would take the shirt off their back and give it to a complete stranger because that's what you do. If you go back to America's biggest wars, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, which are the counties that filled their draft quotas with volunteers instead of with draftees? It's very often the parts in deep Appalachia where you've got grinding poverty, but you've also got this incredible love of country. So if any place in this country deserves not to be left behind, it's Appalachia. But on the public health stuff in particular, the numbers don't look good. And it's one of the reasons why I'm such a big supporter of what you're doing, because these are people who deserve to live better, healthier lives, but they really have been left behind by this country's leadership.
Talk a little bit about how MAHA has affected you personally. My grandchildren go to school with your children. And the MAHA, I think, has gotten a lot of people thinking about how they raise their kids, what they feed them, et cetera, how they go shopping. And then maybe to talk a little bit about the political impacts of MAHA.
Yeah, so there are so many different ways I could talk about this. I mean, one, I just met, Bobby's family backstage, or at least some of them, and I kept on shaking hands with various people. And I'm like, well, you're an Irish Catholic, so it makes sense that you've got, a dozen or so people backstage. But I love that. I love big families. But, so one, my wife, she's probably one of the original MAHA people, though I don't think that she would have ever used that phrase. Because I remember, our oldest son is 8 years old, and when babies typically eat solid food around 6 months of age. And I remember when he started eating solid foods, and I'm like, awesome, let's give him some cupcakes and ice cream. And my wife was like, no, let's give him carrots and applesauce here. So she was already thinking about health and nutrition in a way that was frankly kind of foreign to me, and that I think is very common among the MAHA crowd. You guys are asking the right questions. What are we putting into our bodies? Where was it sourced from? If we're eating animal-based protein, is it coming from a place where the animals are treated the right way? If we're putting medications into our body, are we actually confident that they're doing the thing that they're supposed to do, that they're safe and effective? I just think this whole thing is about asking very critical questions about what we're putting into our bodies, into the bodies of our kids. And it's really affected me in a very profound way, and how I think about my own nutrition, about particularly how I think about what my kids are taking. And, I'm like one of these crazy people. The one way in which I'm more instinctively MAHA is that if I have a back sprain, or I slept, weird, and I woke up with back pain, I don't want to take ibuprofen. I don't like taking medications. I don't like taking anything unless I absolutely have to. And I think that's another MAHA style attitude. It's not anti-medication, it's anti-useless medication. We should only be taking stuff, we should only be giving our kids stuff if it's actually necessary, safe, and effective. And I think that's an attitude that's really beneficial to the entire country, because we do have, you've talked about this as eloquently as anybody, we do really have an obesity epidemic in the United States of America. I think a big part of that is not asking where our food comes from. We really do have medications that I don't think, maybe they're not solving the chronic disease epidemic, maybe some of them are even causing the chronic disease epidemic. We got to be asking more critical questions about what we're putting into the bodies of our kids. And I don't think we were doing that until this movement came along.
The job of the vice president has been called the worst job in the country. and I think
I think we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen.
I think for some vice presidents that's been true. And I know that President Johnson, during my uncle's tenure, felt that he'd been sidelined. And I think Spiro Agnew and Gerald Ford felt the same way with Nixon. But then you had presidents like, you had Vice President like Dick Cheney, who seemed to be actually running the country. And then you had these, relationships with...
Not very well, it turns out.
Yeah, we agree on that. But Al Gore and Bill Clinton and Mondale and Carter, who had close personal friendships, you have an amazing job because you have a president who clearly puts tremendous faith in you. He relies on you. He's given you an extraordinary retinue of responsibilities. Talk a little bit about how your relationship with the president has evolved.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And it's clear to all of us in the cabinet how much affection that he has for you and how much he relies on your wisdom.
Well, it's interesting. You're exactly right that the job of vice president is incredibly contingent on the president that you're serving under. And you could have a president who effectively just passes off big swaths of responsibility. You could have a president who delegates. You could have a president who has no trust in their vice president, Kamala Harris. And so it doesn't go very well for that particular vice president. But I think there are two ways that I try to think about my job with the President of the United States. Number one, he requires honest counsel. In other words, if I have an opinion on something, whether I agree or disagree with the administration position, it's really, really important that I talk to the president about it. He doesn't want yes men. And I think that's one of the reasons why you guys have a great relationship, is because you're always thinking about how can I actually give the president the best counsel. But then the second thing is, when the president makes a decision, your job is to execute. It's not to run to the papers and say, well, actually, I disagreed with this decision, or run to the Congress and badmouth the administration. It's to execute. And I think the reason why the president has trust in me is because, yes, I absolutely tell the president what I think about a given issue, but I also recognize I'm the vice president, he's the president, and when the president of the United States makes a decision, it's time to go and get it done. And I think in part because I get things done, right? I mean, sometimes Congress doesn't cooperate, sometimes the private sector doesn't cooperate. Like, I'm not saying any of us have a batting average of 100, but what I think all of us who have earned the president's trust do is that when the administration makes a decision, when he makes a decision, we actually go out and get it done. And that's why this job has been so empowering for me, is because the president trusts me. He knows I'm going to give him honest counsel. He knows that if he asks me to go get something done, I'm going to try my best to actually go and do it. And that's why we have a good partnership. I think that's why the administration has been so effective this time around, is because there are a lot of people with a very wide diversity of opinions, but we get out there and we try to do the best job for the American people and the President of the United States. And because of that, there's a lot of trust and there's a lot of affection in the cabinet. I mean, you've seen this. Yeah. I've seen this. But when we're sitting in there and the cameras are off and we're just talking about an issue, there is a deep level of affection and trust between all the senior members of the team. I don't know how it's possible to do this job without it, but I know it's why we've been so successful the past 10 months.
Now we've come to the lightning round.
Great.
Marine Corps workout or Pete and Bobby challenge?
That's tough, man. So it's I would say I would say Marine Corps workout, especially for me. The one thing, so I can do like 5 dead hang pull-ups. I have longer arms. I'm a little fatter than I should be, and especially like 10 years or so ago, I got a little out of shape, and so it's actually the Marine Corps like physical fitness test has been an incredible guidepost to me getting back in shape. And it's basically you run 3 miles, you do 100 crunches, or now instead of crunches they do it's this weird planking exercise that's a core exercise, and then there's pull-ups. But I felt like that's been a very good focus. The Pete and Bobby challenge is for people who are in as good a shape as Pete and Bobby, which is not yet me, but that's my goal. My goal is to get there.
Who's the funniest guy on the cabinet?
Well, obviously, the President of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean,
Beside him.
so beside him, I mean, look, we all have different views on this. My personal vote for funniest person outside the president is probably Marco.
Yeah, Marco.
He has an incredible sense of humor. He's got great comedic timing.
Rival.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, you know, there are a couple others. Look, very good sense of humor among the cabinet.
People,
There's a lot of funny people. I think Marco is the funniest outside the president.
He says something that makes everybody laugh.
Correct.
At least once during the cabinet meeting.
That's right. Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw this video circulating on social media, but you know, the president met the president of Syria, al-Shara, in the Oval Office a couple of days ago, and you know, he asked him, he's like, "Well, how many wives do you have?" and it's just like, oh, what an amazing question, amazing comedic timing. There are layers to it. There's like a meta humor to it. It's just anyway, you know. But we've got a lot of good humor in the cabinet.
One of the funniest moments in any cabinet meeting, President Trump had them bring in a full-size picture of himself with Putin, and when they were in Hawaii, and he's very tall, and Putin was very short. Putin came up to about here, and he said, "You know what I said to him?" He said, "I've had it up to here with you." Okay.
I remember that.
There are 8 presidents from Ohio. How many can you name?
Oh.
This is unfair.
That is a totally unfair question. I regret coming to this event based on that question. Okay.
None of them, well, with one exception, none of
Okay, so obviously U.S. Grant.
Yeah.
I have a particular affinity for him. Both of us have beards. Rutherford B. Hayes.
Good.
Was Cleveland, Ohio, or was he somebody else?
I don't think Cleveland was.
Okay, the problem is a lot of the Ohio ones are frankly the range of presidents where nobody can name them.
Yeah, they
right?
all are.
So it's
Except for
like
Grant.
most people can like go up to Jackson, and then they know there's sort of Lincoln and Grant, and then there's like, you know, a black hole of presidents. Those are the Ohio presidents. Please don't judge my home state because it was just it was a different time in the country. So the answer is apparently 2.
Did you read Chernoff's biography of Grant?
I did. Incredible. One of my best friends actually gave it to me 4 or 5 years ago. Incredible book.
It is.
And he was an incredible guy.
Makes you fall in love with Grant.
Absolutely. And people, you know, he was attacked after he died by a lot of his political opponents. A lot of what I learned in grade school and high school history about Ulysses S. Grant is actually fake. He was a great general. He was also a great president.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, guys.
And
Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you all.
occasions, and you are indeed one and only foreign head of state who has made 2 state visits to the Republic of Korea. And it is the first time that you are the first U.S. president that has been conferred the Grand Order of Mugunghwa by Korea. So indeed, our meeting is very meaningful. And what is also significant and impressive is that it's been 9 months since your inauguration, and around the world, in 8 conflict zones, you brought peace. So you are indeed a peacemaker. So it's almost once a month. So many people have been killed and so many damages were done, but you have been successful in bringing peace to many parts of the world. And I hope that your peacemaking skills can be applied to the Korean Peninsula so that we can bring peace on the Korean Peninsula as well. And if that happens, I believe that you will be recognized forever in the history of humanity. And also this will be indeed welcomed by Korean people, because bringing permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula has been a long-desired goal for our country. And as I mentioned many times, you have wonderful capabilities and skills as a peacemaker, and if you can help us and if you can establish peace on the Korean Peninsula, then we will support you so that you can become a peacemaker on the Korean Peninsula as well. Chairman Kim, I hope, will see your true heart and intention. This time, your meeting with Chairman Kim did not happen, but I am very happy that you are willing and open to having a dialogue with Chairman Kim, and the posture itself is a lot for us. And so far, Chairman Kim has not really accepted your good intention and your gesture, so this time it did not happen. But I believe that we've been planting good seeds for a better future, and I hope that your gestures and your words will serve as an opportunity to further open up opportunities for better relations, and we will continue to support your endeavor. As you may know very well, on the Korean Peninsula, a war is going on, technically speaking. So the two Koreas are at war, technically, but with the help of the U.S. and the international community, we have been able to grow our economy and advance our country. And going forward, our bilateral relations are going to focus on modernizing our alliance so that our alliance can become more comprehensive and strategic. Korea has decided to increase our national budget for defense, so military spending and defense budget will be expanded to further strengthen our military capabilities. As you may know very well, the current defense budget of the Republic of Korea is about 1.4 times of the total GDP of the DPRK. So our budget, our military spending is quite significant, and we're ranked number 5 in terms of our military spending. So already it's quite a lot of money. However, I know that it is important to continue to lessen your burden, military and defense burden for us. So we will continue to increase our military spending. Furthermore, I'd like to mention a few things. When I met with you last time, I didn't have a chance to explain in further detail, so there may be some misunderstanding. But when it comes to submarines powered by nuclear energy, I hope that you will support so that we can get supplied of nuclear fuels for submarines. We're not aiming for nuclear-armed submarines, but rather conventionally armed submarines powered by nuclear energy. Because our conventional submarines have limited capabilities, they cannot really effectively monitor and counter any undersea activities from other countries. So if you allow and support the supply of nuclear energy and nuclear fuel for submarines, then we will be assisting building submarines and military vessels. And if we are equipped with nuclear-powered submarines, we can help your activities around this region by providing the patrol and other activities. I understand that you have already expressed support for reprocessing of spent fuel and enrichment of uranium. And if you facilitate the working level consultations between our two countries regarding that, we will be able to achieve good results. And you are now working to make America greater again. And I can see that there has been a lot of achievements. And last night I checked that your stock indexes have hit another record high. So you are indeed making America great again. And so against this backdrop, Korean companies will continue to invest in the U.S., and we will continue to support your endeavor in revitalizing your manufacturing sectors, and shipbuilding sector cooperation will also continue because this will benefit the Korean economy as well, and it will benefit the U.S. economy. And all these efforts will further advance and strengthen our bilateral alliance and relations. We have 50 million people in Korea, and along with our Korean people, once again, I welcome you to the Republic of Korea, and I hope that we will continue to work together for better Korea, for better U.S., and also for better bilateral alliance. Welcome once again. Thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much, and I want to thank all of your people, many of whom I know, and we've been dealing. They're very tough negotiators, and that's the way it should be. And I will say that we're working together. There's a great love between our communities, between our people, between leadership, and we're all friends. I know you showed me a picture from a long time ago of you and I, and you're looking better now than you did then. That was quite a while ago, so you're doing something well. But I will say this, that the Korean Peninsula, and I know you are officially at war, but we will see what we can do to get that all straightened out. We've been very lucky. I've been very fortunate to be able to solve a lot of problems in the world. I didn't even know there were so many problems. There were countries that nobody knew that they were even fighting, and yet they were killing millions and millions of people. And we got them, with the exception of one, which I think we're going to get straightened out, Russia, Ukraine. But we got them all done, all finished. And you know that I'll be working on this very hard with you, with your team, with a lot of other people, see if we can do something that makes sense. I know Kim Jong-un very well. We get along very well. We really weren't able to work out timing. We have President Xi is coming tomorrow, and that was something that obviously is very important to the world, to all of us. You'll be watching very carefully. We're meeting right here, and we're all looking forward to that. I think it's going to work out very, very well for everybody, and I look forward to seeing him. And that was our focus, really, for this visit. But we'll have other visits, and we'll work very hard with Kim Jong-un and with everybody on getting things straightened out, because that makes sense. You know, I have a couple of phrases that I like. One of them is common sense. It's common sense that should work out, and I feel certain that it will. It may take a little time. You have to have a little patience, but I feel absolutely certain that it will. In the meantime, what you've done is amazing. What you've, first of all, the welcome and the beautiful honor you bestowed on me as the only American president. That's really a great tribute to our country. Not to me, it's a great tribute to our country, but I had it focused toward you as opposed to against you, which some people did. What you've done and what you've created, what you've done in really a very short period of time, relatively speaking, is amazing. It's really amazing. And you're working with us now on shipbuilding because you become a master of shipbuilding. You know, during World War II, we were the biggest. We were number one by far, the United States. And then through a series of very bad decisions or lack of caring, we really didn't make ships very much anymore. We made other things very well, but we didn't make ships. Well, making ships is a necessity. And I know we're working in the Philadelphia yards and in various other places in the United States where you're coming. We're going to make ships together in the United States, and we're going to start up shipbuilding, and we'll be right at the top, or at least toward the top, in a pretty short period of time. But we have a lot of industries that are together, and we have a lot of industries where we're leading. We're leading in AI now. We're leading in a lot of the different things. We have many car companies coming back, as you know, to the United States. Yesterday I was in Japan, and Toyota is investing $10 billion on building car plants, numerous car plants throughout the country with American workers, largely American workers. And we have many, many of them opening. So we have a lot of industry coming back. We're going to be having, I think by the end of my first term, we should have $22 trillion invested in the United States from other people and countries. And that's a record that's not even close. I think the record could be just about one-fifth of that. And the previous administration had less than $1 trillion in 4 years. and we're going to have maybe 21 trillion, could be even higher than that in 1 year. So nobody's ever seen anything like, no country's ever seen anything like that. But I just want to let you know it's a special bond that we've had. We've had it for a long time, but you've never had it as strong as you've had it with me. And it's a tremendous honor. I will tell you, driving up in the Beast, that's called the Beast, driving up in the Beast, the limo, with those very powerful people carrying very vicious-looking weapons, it was something. That was some spectacle and some beautiful scene, and I know what goes to making that happen. But it was so perfect, so flawlessly done, and all of us, I can speak for my entire cabinet and all the people with me, I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. So I just want to thank you for that. That was a very special welcome, and it will be remembered. And Marco, I think you're working extremely well with the defensive side, defense and offense. You know, we have both defense and offense, and they're equally as good. In fact, our defense is very important from the standpoint of helping other countries. But we're going to take care of, we're going to work with you, and we're going to take care of the one, it's really a lingering cloud. I would call it a lingering cloud that's over your head. We're going to see if we can get that straightened out. And I just want to thank you again for the welcome. And I wanted to say we've been friends for a long time, and you are going to be a great president. You already are. And if we can do this together, then you'll go down as the greatest of them all, and we'll try and make that happen. Thank you very much. Great honor. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was quite a formal entrance. I thought we were just going to sit down and talk a little bit. We talk about exactly 1 year ago we had that big, beautiful victory. Exactly 1 year. And last night it was, not expected to be a victory. It was very Democrat areas, but I don't think it was good for Republicans. I don't think it was good. I'm not sure it was good for anybody. But we had an interesting evening, and we learned a lot. And we're going to talk about that, and I'll say a few remarks, and then after that I'll ask the press to leave. The press has been very, very nice to us the last couple of months. They were great to us in terms of the foreign visits with China, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, and they were actually terrific. So I want to thank you for that. I'm sure you'll get back to your normal ways soon. But we did a great job over in China. And we've done a great job in turning off wars. We stopped 8 wars. And we have 1 to go, as you probably know, and that'll get stopped also. But we've done a great job, so it's really been an honor to do it, and I did it with many of the people in this room. Every one of you I know, and every one of you I like. I like our leaders. I like everybody. But I thought we'd have a discussion after the press leaves about what last night represented, and what we should do about it, and also about the shutdown and how that relates to last night. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans, and that was a big factor. And they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor, but I don't know about that, but I was honored that they said that. And I just want to thank everybody for being here, and a very special thanks to Vice President J.D. Vance, who's doing a terrific job. J.D., thank you very much. As well as the Senate leadership team that has been working very hard, working really, I will tell you, nobody's working any harder representing the American people, including Senator John Thune. John, thank you. Great job. Senator John Barrasso. John, thank you very much. Senator Tom Cotton, wherever you may be. Tom, thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Senator Shelley Moore Capito, who's been very involved. Thank you, Shelley. Senator James Lankford from one of my favorite states, 77 out of 77. I always say 77 out of 77. Reagan was 56. That was the record. We got every one of them. Thank you, James. And a fantastic friend of mine and an incredible advocate during the election a year ago, Tim Scott. Thank you, Tim. So as you know, we are in the midst of a disastrous Democrat-created government shutdown, and it is Democrat-created, but I don't think they're getting really the blame that they should. That's now officially the longest shutdown in American history. The Democrat radicals in the Senate have shown zero interest in reopening the government, and I don't think they'll act so soon. A lot of people disagree. I've been saying for the last 30 days, we've had 4 or 5 different points. Yes, sir, they're going to get it right now. We should have it done in a day. I've heard that about 4 times. I heard it after Kings. You know, they said I was a king. And I heard it after Kings. I heard it after a couple of other moments in time. And I said, no, I don't believe so. And now I heard it's after the election. I don't believe so. I think they will. I think they're kamikaze pilots. I just got back from Japan. I talked about the kamikaze pilots. I think these guys are kamikaze. They'll take down the country if they have to. So I don't think so. Millions of Americans are going to be without SNAP benefits. And I will say about SNAP benefits, so when I was president, we had $7 billion worth, and now they have many times that, because these benefits were given to anybody that asked, and they're up to, I hear, just many times, $47 billion. So it wasn't the purpose of SNAP. It was for people that really had problems, down and out, people that really had problems. But during Biden, they gave it to anybody that wanted it. I think it's something you have to talk about because the numbers are incredible. But countless public servants are now not being paid, and the air traffic control system is under increasing strain. We must get the government back open soon, and really immediately. We have to get it up. We have the hottest economy we've ever had, and it's affecting the stock market now a little bit. But the stock market, as of Friday, has hit many record highs during the last 9 months, many. And it will again. This is just the beginning, because when these plants that are being built right now start opening up, we've never had anything like this. There's a boom. There's a construction boom right now, but that's going to be bigger than that. That's going to be an economic boom as soon as they open up, and it's going to be something special. We have car companies coming in. When I was in Japan, Toyota, Mr. Toyota, I said, "What's your name?" "Toyota." I said, "Oh, you're rich." He said, "How much of the company do you own?" 92.1%. I said, "I'm glad you said the one." He wants to be. I said, "You're a rich guy." And he said, "I'm investing $10 billion in the U.S." And you know who I'm talking about, right? You introduced me, Mr. Senator. You introduced me originally when you were the ambassador to Japan. He's still good. He's still strong. But he had no interest in investing in this country. Now he's investing $10 billion as of 1 week ago in building new plants. We have auto plants coming in incredibly, but we have AI and all of them. And we can't be extorted to give $1.5 trillion to people that came into the country illegally, many from prisons, many drug dealers. A lot of people came in from mental institutions. They want to give a lot of money to the people that came in illegally. We have to get them out. We can't. No country can sustain that. That's like an attack on our country. In no country, these are not going to be productive people. These are going to be anti-productive people. And we can all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than anybody, but we can't let that happen. It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time. But when they can't do an extension, and John, I think they've done an extension every single time they've ever been asked forever. This is the first time they haven't done an extension. Extensions are supposed to be easy, but if they won't do an extension, they won't do any bill, even a simple bill. And we should do our own bills. We should get out. We should do our own bills. We should open up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID. We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass, make our elections secure and safe, because California is a disaster. Many of the states are disasters. But can you imagine when they vote almost unanimously against voter ID? All we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. That's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, you'll never pass that. You'll never talk about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots make it automatically corrupt. If you have mail-in ballots, automatically it's correct. Even Jimmy Carter, they had the Carter Commission after he got out of office, and he had a group of very distinguished people, Democrats and Republicans, and they passed, they recommended things take place. It was a long time ago. And they said about mail-in ballots, if there is mail-in ballots, there will definitely be corruption, because, you know, they pass through too many hands. I mean, you go in to vote, and they want your card. Even me, I went into Palm Beach. You go in to vote, they want your card. You're this, you're that. They say, I'm sorry to do this, sir, but I have to look at your identification. I said, that's all right. I love that. But, you know, you're really not going to get away with much. It was very, very professional and very good, the way it's supposed to be. But these people don't want that. They have legislation in California where it's illegal to ask somebody for voter ID. If you ask somebody for voter ID, if you're an official, and you say, I'd like to see your voter ID, they can arrest you, okay? They can arrest you because they want to cheat, and they get away with it, and the Republicans let them get away with it, and we won't do that if we have the filibuster. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and we're going to see if we can sway, because I know we have a lot of, not a lot, I'd say half feel this way, maybe a little bit less than half, and it's time to have a really good talk. If I thought that they weren't going to pass the filibuster, I wouldn't even bring it up. They're going to pass it within the first hour. If they take power, and it's more likely that they take power if we don't do it, because we're not going to be passing any legislation. They're not going to approve anything. We're going to go 3¼ years. There won't be one bill that we're going to pass. Because the easiest thing to pass is exactly right now what they won't pass. And they'll do that, and they'll wreak havoc. But let's assume they get in. They're doing it anyway, so it wouldn't matter. They're doing it anyway. And, you know, I have a case where I have great U.S. attorneys that can't be approved because of the blue slips. The blue slips, I think you should terminate blue slips, too. It's a mental termination because it's really a custom. But if you have a Democrat senator or two is bad, but it doesn't make any difference. If you have one senator writes a negative letter on some great U.S. attorney, we had it in Manhattan, Southern District, Jay Clayton, one of the most respected lawyers in the whole country, by far, one of the most respected, and couldn't get approved. The courts approved him. The courts couldn't believe it. They did it like instantly. He went to the best schools, got the best marks, top of his class. Everything was perfect. I mean, he was led the perfect life. Went to Sullivan and Cromwell. Almost immediately became the head of Sullivan and Cromwell. You know, the most prestigious law firm, I would say, in the country, just about. Whether it's Sullivan or 2 or 3 I could name, but Sullivan, I would say, really, maybe number one. He was the head of Sullivan and Cromwell for like 20 years. He went to the SEC, was flawless. He did it for me. He was the SEC chairman. He was flawless. Then he went to Apollo, where he was the chairman of Apollo, and was flawless. Everything went good. The stock went through the roof and everything. I asked him to go to the Southern District, and he said, I'll do what you'd like to do, sir. This is a very high-quality person. But he couldn't get approval from Schumer. Schumer didn't approve him. The best student, the best schools, everything. He's like flawless. And the courts actually said, you're not approving Jay Clayton, right? Lindsay, you heard this. The courts actually interceded, and they approved him. But that's an unusual guy. We have other people that are really good, but people don't know how good. Top students, top colleges, and they're U.S. attorneys, and they won't be approved. They're not going to be approved. We have one in Los Angeles who's phenomenal, but no, the senators, the Democrats are, you know, again, they're kamikazes. The Democrats are not going to approve them. Blue slips are a disaster. So the only people I can get approved are Democrats. I was told that by the Democrats. We'll only approve Democrats. I said, really, is that right? Well, not going to work that way. Not going to work that way with me. But the blue slips are a total disaster. I have 10 people right now that are doing a phenomenal job, and they will be out of office pretty soon. They've got another 2-3 weeks, a couple of them, and then they're going to have to leave. And it's actually a blight on their record because, nobody knows why they left, but it looks like they served 8 weeks and then they had to leave. But they're not going to get the approval because the Democrat, radical left lunatic senators are saying you can't, we're not going to approve you. And if we're not going to approve you, I had actually one Republican who got 2 great letters, but it turned out that he was a rhino, but that was a nice term for him. Now, he got 2 letters of approval, and when I said 2 Democrats approved him, I had to fire him because I figured if 2 Democrats approved him, they wrote the most beautiful letters. I found out, man, this is strange, and he was no good. I fired him. He was really not much of a Republican. The recommendation of that one wasn't such a good recommendation. Someday I'll tell you who recommended him, but it wasn't exactly the best. But when I saw when I saw the 2 senators from Virginia gave him glowing marks, Tim, I said, let me see this. I read the most beautiful letters I've ever seen. I said, I called him up. I said, sorry, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. But it's a horrible thing. Blue slips is a horrible thing because I have the right to pick judges and I have the right to pick U.S. attorneys, and this takes away the right from me. And I think we're going to go to court on it, and we'll see what happens in court. But it gives the president, it takes away the right of the president to pick people to serve on the court and to serve as U.S. attorneys, which is very important. But the biggest thing is the filibuster. We have to get the country going. We will pass legislation at levels you've never seen before, and it'll be impossible to beat us. By the way, if they do, they're going to do it anyway, and they are going to immediately do the filibuster. And when they do the filibuster, they're going to pack the court. They want at least five justices. Now I hear it's up to 5. I actually heard up to 7 and up to 9, okay? They want new judges. They want to pack the court, and they will do it in the first day, maybe the week. Maybe they'll slow it down because there's no reason to rush. But they'll do it first week. They'll vote on this, and I have friends over there that are Democrats. I'm close to a lot of people, and I asked them about that because some people say, well, maybe they won't do that. I mean, they destroyed the career of Manchin and Sinema, and they got them out. They were the only objectors. Nobody else is going to object. They're going to do it the first day. They're going to pack the court. They're going to make D.C. a state, and they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. So now they pick up 2 states. They pick up 4 senators, okay? You think you have problems? They're going to do all of the things. They're going to pick up electoral votes. It's going to be a very, very bad situation. And it's done. It's done. As soon as they attain power. Now, if we do what I'm saying, they'll most likely never attain power because we will have passed every single thing that you can imagine that it's good and all good for the country. And there'll be no reason to. If we don't do that, people will say they're not doing much and they're in power. So the good news is we did the great, big, beautiful bill, and it's the greatest thing we could have done. And the smartest thing with John and our Speaker of the House, who's so good, Mike Johnson, we did all in one bill. If we didn't, John, it would be a problem because, we would have gotten a small piece passed. A lot of people wanted to do that. A lot of people in the room wanted to do that. They went along with me and John and everybody, and we got this thing passed. Honestly, it's 4 years' worth of goodies. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on, think of it, no tax on overtime. It's an unbelievable tax cut for the workers and for business, where business is going to create jobs, and we're creating jobs at levels that nobody's ever seen before. All these things are good. We have to be able to get the word out. If we don't get the word out, we're making a very big mistake. So I have this long, beautiful, and very boring speech. I won't bother reading it, but because we can just start talking, and I think it's very important. We have to get the country open, and the way we're going to do it this afternoon is to terminate the filibuster. And it's possible you're not going to do that, and I'm going to go by your wishes. You're very smart people. We're good friends, but I think it's a tremendous mistake, really. It would be a tragic mistake, actually. It's time. It's time. If I thought they weren't going to approve, I'd sort of be with you. I'd be fine. I'd be neutral to with you. But knowing that they're going to pass it as soon as they get any semblance of control, they'll pass it first thing. Then it's like we have to do it first. And we have 2 years, and we'll end up with 2-3 years, and we'll have this country so perfect. We will have passed more legislation than any Congress and any group of senators or a group of congressmen. And we will get it through. They'll send it to us. We'll send it to them. It'll be a beautiful machine. Otherwise, we're just going to sit around and argue with these people all day long. And they're highly unrealistic, highly unrealistic. Many of them are radical left subversives, frankly. So I want to thank everybody, and we're going to talk. And I want to thank the press for treating us so really well for that foreign trip. It was we had just an amazing meeting. Don't forget, 2 months ago, it looked like the whole world was in trouble over rare earth. And that's no longer even a subject that people talk about. It was all worked out very quickly. Without tariffs, I couldn't have done it. I put a 100% tariff on China. As soon as I heard it, within 20 minutes, I put a 100% tariff on China. On President Xi, who's really a friend of mine, as much as he can be a friend. He's a tough man. He's a tough man. Smart man, actually. Very smart. The press doesn't like it when I call him very smart. You know, they think I'm not supposed to call him smart. But he leads 1.4 billion people without question. In fact, during the meeting, we were there. A couple of you were there, and some of you saw it. So he's here, and he's got about 6 people on each side. And every one of those people was standing like this. They were at attention. And I made a comment to one of them, and I got no response. I said, "Are you going to answer me?" I got no response. And President Xi didn't let him have any. So if there's any question, I said, I want my cabinet to behave like that. That's the way. I'm demanding that I want them sitting up like that, Tim, just nice and straight. I never saw posture like that. I've never seen men so scared in their lives. They have the equivalent of a vice president. He was. I said, "Are you going to answer my question?" And he's like, he doesn't move. I said, "What's wrong with this guy?" "I will answer all questions." Why don't you behave like that? J.D. doesn't behave like that. J.D. buds into conversations. I want to have that for at least a couple of days, okay, J.D.? We'll keep you long term, but a couple of days of that would be very, very nice. Okay, I want to thank you, and we'll talk a little bit. And I see they set me up with a podium. I thought I'd just be sitting, but it's probably easier. I want to thank you all very much. Thank you to the press, and you can go, and we'll speak to you later. Thank you. I'm going to Miami to make a speech today at a big group, and we have a nice big crowd, and we'll see you there. A lot of you are traveling down with me. Thank you very much.